You're listening to Vet Candy.
Hi, this is Dr. Jessica Turner, and you are listening to a special edition of Living Well with Dr. Jessica. It feels amazing to be back in this seat, you guys, and just so excited about everything that is coming up surrounding WVC Nashville and the fact that I get to be a part of Vet Candy's ambassador team that is going to be on the floor connecting with you guys and just making sure that we get the most out of this conference. But even more exciting, I have I think, the brains behind the operation of this conference, Andrea Davis, with me today. And she is a powerhouse, you guys. She's not only the chief executive officer of Viticus Group for going on, almost 7 years now. She has an incredible amount of experience within the executive leadership realm. She was rocking and rolling with hospitals in Las Vegas for years before she joined the Viticus Group, and she was on the floor as pharmaceutical sales and business development before that. So she has some experience, you guys, in all the things. And so I'm excited to dig in with her. Not only, all the credentials, but something that stood out to me is she's also a colon cancer survivor. And so she has this zeal for life, I can't imagine what going through that is like, but it's got to change you. And so I got to believe that she brings that to everything she does, including her work. And so I'm just so excited to sit with her and to just kind of pick her brain. But as always, I just want to thank you for being here. And I want to hand it over to you, give you a chance to just kind of share a little bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today. And we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Dr. Jessica. So I consider myself to be so fortunate. I've just been very lucky in life. And I always tell myself, or I always tell people, I am the luckiest CEO in the world because I absolutely love my job and I love coming to work every day. So you mentioned a little bit about my background. Started out pharmaceutical business development, which I always feel like gave me a lot of really thick skin. There's just a lot of rejection, getting yelled at, being just all the different things. And when you're in it, you're like, oh my God, that was so horrible. And then when you come out of it, you're kind of like, okay, I can handle anything now. And so I learned a lot of skills, I would say specifically in pharmaceutical, because not only does it teach you to have thick skin, which I joke about, but it's true. It teaches you how to influence things, really everything. And it was very sales, of course, but I always tell people sales, man, you get that background and you can really understand how to get things moving and grow things. And it's truly what I love to do. I spent a lot of my career, I ended up moving up very quickly, and I'll probably reference a mentor that both Joyce and I worked for. He was a CEO at a hospital I was at, and he really is what allowed me to move over from more of a business development role into getting into true leadership. I ended up growing into a senior vice president role and then a CEO and COO and all these kind of really cool roles in hospitals, which I thought I would do forever until one of our board members at the time, it was a surgeon I was trying to recruit. He was on the board at Viticus Group, and he used to talk about this amazing organization and how cool veterinarians were. He was a human surgeon, and he would just talk about this all the time. And then the CEO position became available, and there was this big fancy search committee. And he said, you should really put your name in it. Just consider it. And I thought, well, but I'm supposed to be a hospital administrator. That's what I was supposed to do my whole career. That's what I went to school for. And I ended up going through the process. And by the second or third interview, and it was an intense interview, I just fell in love with not only the organization, but the board and the veterinarians. And I'm like, these are the smartest people, but they're really nice and cool. And I just wanted that job so bad after about my second interview. And 7 years later, it's just like I said, every day I go to work and I'm excited and I love the people I'm around and I love what we do and how we change the veterinary landscape. And here I am today with you, Jessica. So there it is.
There's so many parts of your story that stand out because they resonate with me. But several times you said, you thought you were going to be doing X, Y, and Z and then here you are. And man, can I relate to that because I mean, you go into vet school and you plan on, I mean, that's what you plan on doing the rest of your life. And I actually took a step back for 7 years in the middle and was working more with the human side of things with Vet Candy and different organizations, but it was still always connected to the heart of vet med because of the people, like you said. But the other thing that stood out was the importance of that mentorship that was a part of things. Because do you think you would have taken that leap to apply in the first place if he wouldn't have given you that nudge?
So it's kind of funny. I don't know how to explain it, but I always wanted to do more. From the time I was old enough to work, I was like, how do I become the supervisor? How do I do this? I was always trying. So I think I probably would have. However, he is the one, and his name is Kim Anderson. He was the CEO at the hospital that Joyce and I were at. We worked together years ago. And he is the one who said, Andrea, you have leadership skills. I see it and let's make it happen. So he truly opened the doors for me. I knew I was going to get there someday, but I didn't quite know how. And he taught me how and gave me the opportunity. 100%.
That's fantastic. So you knew at a pretty early age, though, that you were kind of meant for this sort of a role. Leadership focused. You said you were always kind of looking at the next step. How do I do more? Like, roughly how old would you say? Were you like, a kid or college or?
It was probably when I was in high school, or maybe, yeah, it was probably when I was in high school. Cause I just remember the minute I was old enough to start working, I just wanted to start working. And I still did, I was a cheerleader and I had my friends and I did all these things, but I just felt like I had to work all the time and just grow and learn and do more. And I can't tell you how many things I applied for that I wasn't qualified because I just felt like I had to keep going. But it was probably in high school. And I didn't know I wanted to be a CEO. I didn't know what a CEO was. Like, you just, like, I came from a family of medical practice. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse. So they didn't talk about CEOs or anything like that. I just knew I always wanted to do more at a young age. And I was always willing to really work hard at everything I did. So that's where it started. And I don't even know how.
No, and I think you're, naturally highlighting a lot of the qualities that are vital, when you are looking at these leadership positions. But I would love to hear, like, what are your main things that you recognize in yourself, but look for in other, people when whether you're interviewing for a different position, but leadership focused roles, what are essential?
So I've learned a lot over the years. The answer I'd give you 15 years ago versus now are very different. I think I've really matured as a leader through the years and learned from my mistakes. I probably 15 years ago, I would have just put everyone around me, these kind of hardcore, like just personalities, get it done,
Yeah.
decisive, because I just wanted to get things done. And I'm very goal oriented. And I think over the years, learning kind of where my weaknesses are, what my impact, because I am a little bit hardcore at times, I would say, how that impacts others, it's completely changed. And so when I look at, and I look very hard, I take our leadership in our organization very seriously because I feel like if you have a good leader in any department in
Hmm.
any level, that's going to really set the tone for that department. And I've seen it over and over again. If I have a good leader somewhere, I don't even worry. I know they'll work
Hmm.
through it. They'll be happy. Where if I have someone I'm questioning, I have a lot of worries, I'm like, okay, oh, what's going on? So I really try to make sure that people in key roles, they're good people, they have integrity,
Hmm.
they own the situation, but all different personality types and all different types of people. So do I look for a key type of person? There's certain criteria they have to hit in terms of having integrity, getting things
Hmm.
done, that sort of thing. But it's more of just having this feeling that they're going to fit and do right by the organization and their team.
Yeah, I agree. And I think early on, you talked about how when you had like your second interview, you were already in love with the company, wanted the position so bad, could see yourself really, just giving it your all because you were already invested in the people. And I think that is an absolute necessity when anybody's stepping into a higher level position because you do set the tone and they're going to follow, what you're putting out there as far as your commitment and your passion. to the mission itself. And so I love that you naturally shared that, because I do think it's important. And I'm sure when you're looking at these different roles and different candidates, that's something that stands out as well. You don't want someone that's 1 foot in, 1 foot out. They need to be just on as much on board as you are. Now, I know earlier we were talking about how everybody knows the profession has flip-flopped. It used to be a male, dominated field. And for a while, the women have been, kind of ruling things as far as it goes on ground level. But the reality is there's still not that many women in the higher level positions, such as you within, the veterinary profession and different organizations. So I would love to hear your thoughts. Anyone that's listening that, they're listening to all this, taking it in, and they're like, you know what? Like, I see a lot of that in myself. Maybe I should be looking at, more. Like, I know that there's more in me. What does that look like? And what would that next step be? So do you mind shedding light on some of the opportunities that you have noticed within veterinary specific organizations where women could, kind of just take that extra step and realize that they could do it too?
Sure. So while there may not be female CEOs or presidents in every role, there are a lot of amazing female leaders that I have met and work with. And I can think of every company we work with, there's someone I'm like, oh my God, they're pretty awesome. And I think it's definitely worthwhile for people when they see someone, whether it's their own organization or outside they've come into contact with, see if they can take the time to learn from them, to meet them, to get advice. I tell her this because I think she's the coolest person ever. But Audrey that runs Pet Folk, the first time I met her, I'm like, she's so cool. Like she just has this coolness. She dresses cool. Everything about her is cool. And I remember I met her at VMX actually at the Hyatt Lounge, and I went up to her and I'm like, hey, and I introduced myself because I knew who she was. And every time I see her, I try to get a few minutes with her because I just learned something new. And she's so strategic and so smart. And I think finding those people that you look up to, even if you don't know them well or they're in a different area, ask them. I mean, I know my entire career, I've been very, very fortunate and people have helped me along the way. And I always take the time if people want to learn more and get advice or whatever. And I think just asking people like, can I hear your story or what do you think? Because I can't tell you how many times that I've met people along the way and then some opportunity, maybe not with me, but with someone else comes out and I'm like, oh my gosh, have you ever met so-and-so? Because they're
Yes.
really awesome. And I think it's just like when you find people you kind of connect with and you think, you'd like to know more about, ask them. And you might get blown off at times, and that's okay. Not everyone is open, and that's all right. But there's lots of people that want to see people grow. And I know in my experience, there have been times where I was the only female at the table. And I felt like it was really my responsibility to look out for the others out there and make an extra effort to touch base with them and do those things. So I think find those people that are out there and talk to them and just learn about it and see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you were kind of, shedding light on things to Jill and I before we even started, where we were thinking it's even less than it really is. And you kind of encouraged us like, no, there's some women in there. There's some women out there in these companies and in these big roles. We just may not see them. But I couldn't agree more. Whether you're leadership in vet med or anything, if you have your heart set on something, find somebody that's a step ahead of you and ask them, what their story is and how they got there. Make sure that they, share the same, values and, priorities as you. But I mean, that is the best advice anybody can give, because I mean, they know exactly what you're trying to accomplish. And so I love that. I also, when listening to your response and that importance of like teaching and honestly, like kind of avoiding some of the mistakes because you have that person that's a step ahead of you. But I know people have to be asking, I'm asking myself, how did you do all this? How do you do all this as a mom of two? You're have a wonderful marriage of over 25 years, but because there's so many women in any position in vet med, the big struggle is always balance. So I would love to hear what you've kind of learned over your, journey, and just how do you find that balance? What is balance to you?
So I might be a little bit of an exception where I feel, and I attribute it to pharmaceutical sales because I tell you, I have learned so much. I personally don't need as much balance. I feel like I can go in a lot of different directions and do a lot at once. And I'm sure that I'm doing things poorly at times. But I will say one thing I was very fortunate. I would not be able to do everything I've been able to do if I didn't have really supported my mom, my mother-in-law.
Hmm.
They helped to basically raise my
Yeah.
kids. And so that was, having that family support and a very supportive husband. But as I started in my career and especially in my prior life, I had zero balance. And I think it was the opposite. I didn't spend enough time doing the things that were the most important,
Hmm.
including taking care of my health. And so I really think that that was one of those lessons I learned kind of the hard way, where later on, as I really took a step back and said, look, no one's going to die. I can definitely make it to every, soccer game and every gymnastics meet or whatever the case may be. And now I guess when it comes to like, there's certain things I just make it a priority. And, with my team, I want them to see that I will never miss any sports that my kids have. I won't do it. They will always come first. When it comes to health and appointments, I'll miss whatever I need to. I'm going to take care of that first. And so I set that tone loud and clear. And I encourage others when I see it, because I recognize people need more balance than I probably do, only because I started with zero balance and it wasn't good.
Yeah. No, I could relate to that for sure. And I think we have a lot in common in regards to like a natural drive and thriving on goals and kind of always wanting to learn and grow. And so I do think that that could be a blessing, but also kind of a curse at the same time, because we enjoy what we do so much that we don't really recognize that we need to take that step back sometimes before we kind of hit that wall. But I know that's what led to me taking a break, a good chunk of it, because my health was, definitely taking a hit for things when I was fresh out of school and pretty much working, 6 days a week on call every other week and, all the things. And unfortunately, I think a lot of us end up having to learn the hard way. And so that's why I love conversations like that. That's why Living Well, even started, honestly, was to have people like you on and to hear their stories. And so many of them had hit like a wall of some sort that kind of caused them to find that balance. But I also love that you mentioned self-awareness is huge, because everyone is going to be different. I probably require a lot more boundaries than you do. Even though I love doing all the things, I've recognized that there's a point where everything else kind of starts crumbling. And it's a big part of why I do relief work now, and I think some of the people listening may be like, well, I'm stuck, like I really can't achieve that balance of being at every game or being able to take care of myself and go to these appointments. And I recognize that that's a real threat for some people. And it could be so hard to envision any alternative, but there are other alternatives. And it doesn't have to take you getting to such a poor state that you have to step away with no backup plan, because that's essentially what I had to do at one point. I recognized that where I was not a good it was very toxic, and I left with no job. But I mean, I found a new clinic within a couple of months, but it's scary whenever you make those calls. And sometimes I really think it's hard to see that there is any other option, because like you said earlier, we think we're going to be doing this thing the rest of our lives. And sometimes that includes a clinic or, a doctor you work under, and just keeping that open mind, but recognizing that you have to be at the center of that consideration. It's just everything else is just not worth it. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go next with you. So I would love to kind of shift gears. So I will be completely honest with you. I had no clue that WVC was like branching out from Las Vegas until a couple of months ago. And so when I heard that they were going to Nashville, I was like, all right, because I've gone to a couple of conferences at Nashville. It's just a fun place, to go. And it's kind of smack dab in the middle. So I feel like it's a great, option for so many people. But I would kind of love to hear a little bit more about how that came about and just why should people take this conference seriously? Why is it different than others?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a huge deal. And I get, oh my gosh, I get so excited just talking about it. So this has been a goal so Viticus Group are almost 100-year-old organization. And so for many years, there's been just a thought that we wanted to be on the East Coast. COVID put us back a little bit. And so as we got back on track, our first thought was, where do we go? We want to get out there. So our organization, we're on both the veterinary and the human health side. And in addition to WVC, we also have our incredibly amazing training facilities in Las Vegas. And we've had a lot of people say, we need to see you on the East Coast. And so when we went to think about that, we're like, where do we plant seeds somewhere else that makes a lot of sense? We want somewhere that people want to keep going back to, like Vegas. We want somewhere fun. We want somewhere that's accessible. And so our chief veterinary officer, Dr. Pease, and I, we did a bunch of site visits on the East Coast saying, what is the perfect city? And quite honestly, I had a girls' weekend in Nashville before he even came out to meet me. And by the end of the weekend, I'm like, I know we have to go to a few cities, but we need to be in Nashville. Like, it was so obvious. And it was the city that had the best real estate for us. We have an 80,000 square foot facility that we are going to be having open in time for WVC. And we really wanted to offer people an opportunity to get the amazing education that they get at WVC Vegas on the East Coast, not only closer to home, but also a whole nother time of year. We know that
Yeah.
not everyone can get out there and, in February to Vegas. And so we want everyone to have access either to WVC Vegas or now Nashville, and our hands-on training facilities in both cities. So Nashville, it just, like, I can't even imagine another city that meets the same vibe as Vegas. So it's perfect.
It really is such a fun place. And I will say WVC in Vegas has always been like my conference. It's been a long time since I've gone, but straight out of school, like that was our place that I would reunite with my classmates. And one year, like my parents came with us. Like it's such a fun, place to involve others that aren't necessarily in vet med, but aren't like, oh, we going to a conference, like, so I know for me, we've really been looking forward to it. We've been kind of treating it as like this final fling, before summer's officially over and school starts. And so I just love all of the things that y'all have kind of incorporated, trying to find the clues in the exhibit hall for Rocky Raccoon and, just little things. Like when I told my girls about that, they were like so excited about being a part of that with me. And I think it's so important to have a place where people could come and it's not just sitting in a lecture. And I mean, I can't even name all the different tracks you guys are offering because there's just so many of them. I did the little quiz seeing what animal, if I did I'm forgetting what it was called. I'm drawing a blank where you could get a badge for if you go to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm like, that's so fun. Like,
It's our side quest, which our
yes.
director of education has come up with, and it's brilliant. That is what we're really trying to do, but in different ways. We want people, if they say, you know what, I have so much CE, I want to go to both this year, that they could go to WVC Vegas and WVC Nashville and have totally different experiences and still learn everything they need to learn, but different. We are purposely finding different speakers, having different information. We want it to be still the best education, but have it different. And I mean, the innovation that we've been able to bring, not only like the side quest you brought up to traditional education, what we bring to the exhibit hall, being able to do painting to learn and glass blowing and all these crazy things. There's so much thought and intention that goes into that because we want to do things differently. We want people to go to the exhibit hall. So everything we do, there's a lot of intention, discussion, and strategy and execution that go behind it. So it's not by accident at all. And you had asked earlier, and I should have mentioned this. You said, there's a lot of stuff that's different in Nashville. And one of them is that we're going to be so close to all these vet schools and vet tech programs. And we are really, really excited to connect with that community early in their career
Yeah.
so they can learn about all this cool stuff now. And so over years, they're like, I don't know, this year is it Vegas or Nashville? And they really become a part of the Viticus Group community. And unfortunately, there's just not as many of the schools around Vegas. So that's not an area as much of focus, but
Hmm.
Nashville, we love the schools and we're excited to have those students come and learn about us early in their careers.
Yeah, no, I love that. And honestly, that's not something like I would even think of because I'm not thinking, okay, where are the colleges located? But I remember going to Orlando as a student, and it was just like mind blowing being at that conference. And I mean, it was honestly, it was a sacrifice to get there, and I only was able to be there for a day. So being able to have these options of these extremely well put together and thoughtful conferences is huge. And I feel like you're covering so many different areas that it'll really allow them to kind of figure out, okay, where are my weak spots and how can I start working on them before I even become, a practicing veterinarian. I think it's awesome. And I would definitely be one that would gladly go to both. I will say that already. I'm already
Okay.
like trying to figure out how to get back to Vegas. Because it's been a time, but I always thoroughly enjoyed the conferences, y'all put on. So I'm just super excited about Nashville. You were mentioning different things in the exhibit hall that I was like, I didn't even know that was going to be there. You're talking about painting and glass blowing? Like what?
We
That's like,
started doing that in Vegas, and we recognize that people want to come to our shows, both of them, for education. So my gosh, we're going to deliver great education, but we also want people in the exhibit hall. The sponsors do a lot to support us, and that's the time for them to connect. And
yeah.
we really feel like it's our responsibility to come up with all these cool activations and reasons. Let's get them in the exhibit hall, and so they're getting their education in different ways everywhere, including really unique ways.
Yeah, no, I think that's so fun. Um, I I'm so excited about being able to partner with Chewy and having a book signing there. Just the idea of I don't know, it just not being these companies that are just trying to sell you something. Like it just seems like there's a shift as far as the sponsors and exhibit halls and kind of what you picture, or at least what I used to picture. And so I love everything I'm hearing. I think I even saw something about, is there going to be a section for just like petting kitten, like cats
Oh
and
yeah. That's a given. We so kittens and puppies. We're very fortunate that we have those regularly, and we have them at both shows. In Nashville, in particularly, I know we have a Highland cow and a bit
oh
of
my
a
goodness.
zoo, and oh yeah, I mean, it is just like our exhibit hall. I feels like is a mini Disneyland. It's so much fun.
Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm I'm so much more excited than I was before, and I was pretty excited. So all right. Well, I'm like struggling. I don't know. It's hard to like wrap things up, but I'm also like aware of the time and I want to respect our listeners. But I I would love to hear what excites you most about not only the future of, the organization that you're leading, but just the veterinary profession as a whole, as an observer.
Oh my gosh. I just think it is the most amazing industry. And what I really appreciate about it, and I think it's very different that the human health side, I would say, is people talk about the problems. There may be issues and there may be things going on, but I really appreciate it seems like the veterinary community, they bring it forward to talk about so they could be, ways to fix and make things better. I think where, as if I could bring in where we see ourselves in a lot of the change is what we're doing in the hands-on space. So when we're not doing these little, conferences in Nashville and Vegas all year round, we're putting on over 300 events where people come in and get that hands-on training. And we
Wow.
really hear the need, not only to get the veterinary technicians, get them in this and be a part of
Yeah.
it, but the veterinarians coming out of school and having that confidence and having the skills so they can go out on their own and keep everything in their own practice and all those great things. And so it seems like that's an area that there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of need. And we're excited because we feel like we can really help out and be a part of it. That is where we see ourselves. I mean, we have a very strong focus on what do we do well, and let's keep on doing
Yeah.
what we do well. We do well at providing education at conferences and all those cool things. And we believe the hands-on training is something we do different and unique. And we're trying to integrate that everywhere in every way because it feels like something that's really a focus in the industry. And I think it's good that people are talking about it and identifying that it there needs to be focus around it. But as a whole, it's just such a great industry. People are wonderful. It's going to continue to do amazing things because of what they do. So I know there's things that aren't always perfect, but I just see it as such a
Yeah.
bright, shining place. So.
No, I agree. And man, if so, I've been out for 16 years, and your only option was finding someone that would agree to mentor you, like as far as hands on. And so to have, I had no clue that it was as many that y'all offer, and now these two locations. So I hope people that are listening, this is opening their eyes to what y'all do just as much as I am. Um, because I really did not I didn't know the depth of what y'all do, for the veterinary profession. And part of that may be because realistically, a lot of us are kind of stuck close to home to get, like our hours. And I think people need to really consider this as like a fun investment, because I have a feeling once you go and see it, like you're not going to want to go back to doing, just the boring lectures that we kind of have to go to locally. So I know I'm really excited. And um, because you're such a strong woman, that we could look up to, the final thing I would love to wrap up with is if you could sit down with every woman in vet med for just a minute, what would you want them to know?
Um, I guess coming from someone who is not clinical, I would first say, "Oh my God, you're so smart," first of all. Um, but I would say, going back to one of the initial thoughts is find someone that you respect, you want to know more about, and expand your network. It's an incredible network, and people are very generous with their time and thoughts, and take advantage of that.
Oh, I agree. I think networking is one of the most significant things that you could do in any profession, but especially the veterinary profession, because it's
Mhm.
still such a small, close knit, community. And so I love that advice. And I'm so glad that we were able to spend this time together. I feel like I've learned so much more, not only about you, but about, Viticus Group in general, and what y'all are, what y'all mission and what y'all are passionate about. And just all the things that y'all are doing for our profession, and how appreciative we are that we have people in our corner, that are listening, and meeting those needs that we're sharing about. So just thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Well, thank you for taking the time to learn more about us. And we're so excited for you to be in Nashville.
Me too. I can't wait to actually meet you in person.
Yes.
All right. Well, it has been an absolute joy spending the afternoon with you. And so excited to be on the floor at WVC Nashville as part of the Vet Candy team. I will have most of my family. We're leaving the little boy back at home. Didn't really want to be wrangling him in the middle of everything, but we will have our twin 12-year-old girls, and they are just as much excited. Plan on checking out the zoo. I know that there's an awesome discount that's offered to attendees, and you were mentioning so many things that are going on. So everybody definitely needs to do a little bit of their homework and check out what everybody's going to be doing. But definitely tune into Vet Candy. We're going to have several of us on the floor sharing our time there, and just trying to make sure that you maximize everything that WVC Nashville is going to offer. If you see me, stop me, please. I want to meet you. Come check it out Monday at 1 p.m. at the Chewy booth. Just would love to be able to hug as many of you as possible, unless you're not a hugger. That's okay too. But it's going to be a great time. Thank you for listening. And hopefully we will get to see you over there. And don't feel bad if you can't be here in person. I know it just doesn't happen for all of us, but make sure that you are following us on Vet Candy on Instagram. We're going to be doing so many different fun things, you guys. So you don't want to miss that out. We're making sure that we're bringing a little piece of it to you so that you could plan to be here next year. So it was great spending time with all of you, and we will see you soon.
See you soon.
It's Vet Candy.
Vet Candy.
It's Vet Candy Radio.